Morning, Glenn.
Good morning, Dave. How are you doing, man?
Good, good.
Hey, you want to welcome our fans this morning?
You bet. Welcome to Under the Hood with Glen and Dave Podcast.
And who are you?
I'm not sure.
Who would you like to be?
I'd like to be tall, dark, and handsome, but that ain't going to happen.
Yeah, okay. We'll drop that one like a hot rock. Speaking of hot rocks, we're going to talk about, we talked about this in our last episode, that we're going to allude to this, and it's called the monsoon.
Yep.
What is a monsoon, Dave?
The monsoons is when the weather starts to get a little bit dicey. You start to go out there and you see all of a sudden the wind just picks up. You're going out there, it's nice and calm and everything's cool, and all of a sudden you got this big windstorm that comes through. Maybe dumps a little bit of rain on you. Usually what it does is it dumps just enough rain to make the dirt stick to your vehicle.
Yeah, well, the origin of these storms, and I've kind of studied this a little bit, you know, when I watch the weatherman and everything. These storms actually come out of the Gulf of Mexico, and you seem like almost like a hurricane type swirling, and then they start moving northward and westward. So they hit us, they hit New Mexico, they hit California, and then they move a little bit further north. By the time they get north of Arizona, they kind of die off. But these are like swirling winds, and they bring a lot of they can and usually do bring a lot of precipitation at some point.
Well, yeah, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But I'm just impressed that you studied this, Glenn. I mean, I'm glad to see you have some time on your hands that you can study these things. Well, thank you for bringing that to the show.
Well, what's interesting, the difference between, a monsoon or a haboob and we'll talk about...
Did you say haboob?
I did say haboob.
A big haboob?
But it's not what you guys are thinking out there. It's actually a type of storm that, a tornado actually is like, it's a twister with a big wide opening at the top and it twists down. A monsoon and a haboob is more like a rolling type of thing, where it rolls sideways. So if you can imagine like a vertical type of tornado, that's more what it's like. And it does bring rain, it does bring high winds and everything else like that. But the accumulation of the dust, if you can imagine, this accumulation of dust and dirt rolling with this thing, and it accumulates more and more. So we have a desert here, so it picks up the sand and the dirt. And
it's flat too.
And it's
flat. It makes it so much. It's better.
And it facilitates it. Let's put it that way.
I'm just impressed with your knowledge on the weather. I think, are you in your second career? Are you going for like a weather person? Is that what your next job is going to be?
I don't know about that, but being aware.
You just like saying haboob, don't you?
I do. But the different kinds of weather affect the way we prepare for our day and help our customers and help other people understand. If they've never lived here before and they've never experienced it, it's good for them to know what that brings.
Well, absolutely, and I'm joking around with you, but you're 100% right. Definitely, it's sometimes it's not a joking matter. If you're driving down the road and one of these things hit, it can be the visibility can be very bad.
Extremely bad.
Right.
Like pull over, shut off your car.
Shut off the lights. Make sure you get far enough off the road because you don't want somebody to run into you. And it's really, the visibility is really bad. And Glenn, the thing of it is we something simple and people don't even think that it's going to be crucial or non-crucial. There's a couple of things. First of all, wiper blades. I mean, how many times do you see a car come into your shop that has crispy wiper blades? The rubber is supposed to be really soft and pliable.
If I'm going to eat wiper blades, I want them to be extra crispy.
Extra crispy. Yeah. Well, when they're extra crispy, it's like taking a piece of steel and running it across your windshield. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
It's not gonna help you much at all. And so at this time of the year is a really good time to change those wiper blades or to check them to make sure that they are still soft and pliable. So when they're going across your windshield, they're actually cleaning the windshield and making sure that you have the visibility that you need to be able to see what's in front of you.
Yeah, I've seen wipers that you'd be better off not turning them on and
absolutely.
Leaving the water run across than turning those things on and having them.
It smears. You're 100% right. The thing of it is how many times have you turned wiper blades on and if they're bad, all you did was smear everything that was stuck to your windshield across your windshield. Now your visibility is worse.
Right, and then thousands of times flapping back and forth, it'll actually scratch the windshield, and you can't get those scratches out. You have to replace the windshield. So it's cheaper to buy wiper blades, have good visibility, not have to replace your windshield. It's a threefold deal.
Right, and then what about headlights? I mean, how many times have you seen cars come in there with the headlights? They're glazed over with this yellow tint that the light is not beaming through. The light when it's got the clear plastic on there is what it's designed to do. Light is supposed to beam out there, so it's able to give you a kind of a caption of what's in front of you.
Right.
But when it gets fogged over or gets that yellow glaze over the top of it, the light's not beaming out, and you really have poor lighting and poor visibility.
Right. Well, back in the day, all headlights were made from glass.
Yep.
And so they would never fog. Yeah, they'd get dirty, wipe them off with a rag, put some window spray on them, whatever. But these plastic ones, the extreme heat, and you see it more commonly here in our hot desert and in the Southwest and so on than you do if you're up north in Wisconsin or Minnesota or whatever, because the heat is not that extreme and excruciating. But what happens when these lights start to fog over, I call it, headlight fog, is instead of projecting light from the bulb that's inside of that container, which is your headlight assembly.
The housing,
the housing, instead of projecting light out of it so you can see in front of you, it starts to diffuse it. So if you think about a fluorescent light in an office or something like that, they put an additional cover on there, which is called a diffuser, because they want that light to expand and move from side to side and not be directly down on you. So you don't want, but in your vehicle, you don't want diffusion, you want direction. You want your lights to direct in front of you so you can see what's coming up in front of you. If a dog runs out or a kid runs out at night or something.
Well, even if it's even if it's poor visibility, like we were talking about the Haboobs and the Monsoons and all the the wind, the dirt, and we're in the desert. So when the wind starts to go, guess what? Dirt starts to fly in the air, and you start to lose visibility. So we want to make sure that you have a good light out in front of you to project, so you can see what's out there before you get there. And especially if you're driving on the freeway at 65 miles an hour, you're going to get there pretty fast, and you want to make sure that visibility is there for you.
Right. And so again, it doesn't just diffuse the light when they're fogged up, but it also affects their giving you the visibility that you want out in front of you, the projection to see things clearly.
Yeah.
And so it muddies up everything, and you can't see clearly. And you may just need to get a license plate, of someone in front of you just cut you off. Oh, I'm going to get that guy, or it could be, that you saw something happen, a crime happen or something, and it's at night, and you might be able to see that person's license plate if you can clearly see.
Yeah, and there again, the things that we're talking about are really simple things. These are really simple things. Even the consumer out there, you don't have to lift the hood. You don't have to know anything about a car, the engine, the brakes, the tire. You don't have to know anything. All you have to do is just visually check it.
Right.
And literally, I tell my clients that literally when you all you have to do is if you lift the wiper blade off the windshield and you take it and you just tug on it just a little bit, if it starts to rip, you need to replace it.
Exactly.
If it stays together, then chances are the blade and it feels soft, chances are it's going to be okay.
Right. And another thing, just to finish up on the headlight deal, is those can be polished out. I would say for the most part, avoid products that you can buy in your auto parts store, because it's usually some kind of a cream. If they're really lightly starting to fog up, it's probably okay. But once they get to a place where if you had this in front of your face, you couldn't wave your hand in front and see through it, you're going to have that professionally done. It costs a little bit over $100 to have those done. And then we put a sealer on there. We do it at my shop. I think Dave does it at his shop.
Yeah, we absolutely.
And we polish them out. We use a 3M kit. We have special tools to buff those things. And there's several different grits of sandpaper that are used to do that, and a couple different grits of polish. And we get them looking like brand new again. What is the cost of a new headlight these days, Dave, to replace it?
You're talking about the housing?
Yeah.
Yeah, changing the housing. You know what? You can get it some of them you can get aftermarket. If you can get them aftermarket, it's a lot cheaper. But I mean, it's a couple $100.
Yeah, and then sometimes it takes over an hour to install one.
Yeah,
the grill, sometimes the front bumper has to come off.
The bumper has to come off. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You nailed it, man.
There are bolts hidden back in there. The inner fender well, in many cases, there's bolts back there. So it's not something you want to do. So to prevent having to have all that expense, as long as your light lens is not cracked, they can be polished out and they look like brand new again.
And absolutely, it's amazing, the chemicals and the sanding. There's a little bit of work in it. There's some stuff that you can wipe on there, and you can make it better, and it'll be fine for a short amount of time.
Once they're too far gone, they're too far gone.
Right, and the thing of it is we actually sand down that film over the top.
Exactly.
And with a couple of different grits of sandpaper, and once we sand that down, we get it back to where it was before it oxidized. Basically, that's what it does. It oxidizes. Hey, Glenn, did you know a fun fact? July 5th, 2011, one of the biggest dust storms in Phoenix history, measured about a mile high and stretched about 100 miles, consuming the whole city.
I was here. In fact, I think I was in my swimming pool when that one came through with my son, and I got a picture of him pointing up into the sky, and all you could see was this brown, reddish.
It was a wall.
It was a wall.
It was a wall. You know what? I remember it too. I'd never seen nothing like that before. I was like, holy moly. And it was just, and I came out the next morning, and all I know is that my windshield, my van, everything was just covered in dirt.
Well, the streets are covered. I mean, those winds will get up to,
right, good point.
They'll get up to 60, 70, and even 80 miles an hour of that dusty crap. I mean, you could get your car sanded, actually, if it sit in the right spot.
Did you know Haboob lasts 10 to 30 minutes?
Sounds like a pleasurable experience.
I didn't know it lasted that long.
Well, the Haboob actually is a term that they use in the Middle East to describe their dust storms out there. And so we kind of adopted it here. I think we've been using that term here for about 10 years, but someone glommed onto the Haboob thing, and sounds like something fun to glom onto. But at any rate, that these are things that, we adopt these different terms, but a Haboob is just a severe dust storm, and they can last for hours.
Yeah, well, the wind just comes through, and it's amazing. I was in my backyard, and this was last year, about this time, maybe more like August, and I was sitting out in the backyard. I was watching some TV. I had the umbrella up, and it was the middle of the day. I had this umbrella. And
what umbrella?
Yeah, well.
It was in your neighbor's yard, probably.
No, actually, this thing's huge. I got a huge umbrella in there.
That's what they all say.
Yeah, yeah. Good one. Anyway, so
Dave's got a big umbrella, everybody. Remember that.
So this thing, all of a sudden, the wind comes through there. It bends this thing over because it's mounted into the ground. It bends this thing over like a taco. Next thing you know, I got this thing laying.
That sounded racist, Dave.
What? It sounded racist?
Bend it over like a taco, man. Go ahead. Finish your story.
So anyway, this thing got bent over, and it's destroyed. I mean,
you used the word bent over way too many times.
Well, and it's funny because there was no wind at all. This gust of wind came through, bends this thing over, and wind stops completely. And the rest of the day there was no wind.
So the wind then said, "I got another one."
I think it was like planned that way. It was like, you know what? I'm just going to screw with this guy today. Let's just mess with him.
Sounded like it worked.
It did. It ticked me off so bad. I was so mad.
Hey, something to have also with you. We talked about this when we were off the air before about having a cell phone charger pack with you.
Yeah, like a battery thing, right?
Yeah, like you have to shut your car off so your cigarette lighter thing that you use to charge your vehicle doesn't stay on. And leaving your key on for an excessive period of time if you're seeing through a storm could drain your battery. So have a charging pack with you because you could even possibly, in a bad storm, lose communication too.
Right, absolutely. And that's something that I never really even thought of. But how many times do you look down at your phone and you realize that your phone's on, in red? And a lot of people I know that they're constantly their phone's on red. And another thing, Glenn, is make sure you have gas in the tank. Keep your tank as full as possible. Never run it below a quarter of a tank. And people say, well, I only put $5 or $10 in at a time or whatever. Well, fill it up once and then put $5 or $10 in at a time. Yeah. And then you're going to stay at the top. Don't stay at the bottom.
Right. Well, $5 or $10 only going to get you about 2.5 gallons of gas anymore.
No, at $5 I only get 1 gallon, right?
Exactly.
And that's that's a whole other story right there. But so yeah, definitely there's some really easy things as a consumer that you can do, and you don't even have to lift the hood. I guess that's the point we have here, right, Glenn? Is to make sure.
Let us go under the hood.
Yeah, let us, and there again, make sure you get your car on a regular basis, and we preach this all the time. Make sure you get your car inspected. Make sure you.
Windshield wipers, we didn't mention the washers, too. A lot of people let their tank run dry.
There you go.
Or
That's
the tank cracks and it won't even hold liquid anymore. So you don't even have anything to wash your window with while you're going down the road. So it's really important to make sure that, you've got that washer thing working right. And sometimes the little pump motor in there goes out. There's a number of reasons why they don't work. Sometimes the lines get plugged up. Sometimes they come disconnected from the windshield squirters, which are in front of your windshield. So that stuff, we check that every time you bring your car in, make sure it works.
You nailed it right there. The thing of it is once in a while, just check your washers, make sure they're working. Because like you said, the craziest things can happen. They can plug up. They can have little issues that you don't even aware of. And then when you need them, you don't have them. So That's really, really important. And Glenn, you and I say this all the time. Thing of it is if you're going to get your oil changed, when you go into the place, make sure that they're qualified to do a complete inspection of your vehicle, and ask them. Say, hey, are you going to do a complete inspection of my vehicle? If they say they can't, or they don't know, or they don't show you like a digital vehicle inspection, and they don't show you all the things that they check, because you want to go to a place that really has the ability to see kind of the future.
Well, yeah, an inspection is an interpretive term, right? I mean, yeah, we look at 5 things every time, you know.
Yeah, right.
We look at like 50 things every time you come in. 60
yeah,
things.
we
50
got
to 60 things
yeah.
in our inspection that get checked every time you come in. And the windshield washers and wipers and all those little things, you know, your tires, not just the tread on the tires, but the sides of the tires. Sometimes they can have a bulge on the side that you can't see because it's on the inside.
Right. And to wrap this thing up, Glenn, because, I mean, you know, we're going to move on to another podcast, but the battery.
Whose podcast are we going to move on to?
I don't know. We'll find somebody.
We'll give it another shot. Okay.
I don't know if somebody else will have us on our podcast, but
Right.
that'd be worth, you know, we can ask. But a battery. You know, we've got these great testers nowadays. They're little handheld testers, but they test the state of health of the battery.
Just bought 6 of them.
Yeah. Did you really? Wow.
For all
yeah.
my techs.
Yeah, and that's awesome, because those things are worth their weight in gold. You know, when you test it and it shows you the state of health on the battery, and the state of health is, let's say that has 680 cold cranking amps and it's down to 300, well, you know that battery is probably on its way out.
Right.
So you want to make sure we want to eliminate you getting stuck with a dead battery. So we will let you know that, hey, the state of health on this is half or less than half, and it probably should be replaced.
Yeah, and it also shows you, and these things have just amazing capacity to show you the charging system's working okay, your alternator's working all right. And it's just, I was surprised. And the ones that I bought for my guys, you know, they had like 366 5-star reviews, and nothing below that. So it's pretty amazing.
Right. They're amazing testers. And, you know, the first time we got one of those things, we didn't really believe it. So one of my employees, he brought his wife's car in, and we tested it, and it showed the state of health was about less than half. Well, we thought, let's see what happens. Well, she got stuck.
Because he wasn't a believer at the time.
Yeah, I don't think she was too happy with our analysis on that.
Well, I think we'll wrap it up here, Dave, and we want to thank everybody for joining us on our podcast, Under the Hood with Glen and Dave podcast. And we would like you to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. It just makes you part of our regular audience, and it's podcastunderthehood.com.
But you can send donations, right, Glenn?
We can send. We take donations. Have yourselves a great week.
Have a great week, and